Aaron Finch, Michael Clarke and Tim Paine. 3 former Aussie skippers plus Mr Cricket. A star-studded Around the Wicket is coming your way. Has David Warner played his last IPL match? Will Ricky Ponting survive as coach? Could Australia learn a thing or two when it comes to the retirement of Jimmy Anderson? And Mike Hussey talks MS Dhoni and Australia's World Cup hopes. Let's go Around the Wicket. Hello and welcome to Around the Wicket. I'm Neroli Meadows, and what about this? 3 Aussie captains, if you don't mind. World Cup winner Aaron Finch, World Cup winner Michael Clarke and former Test captain Tim Paine join us as we edge closer to that T20 World Cup. Gentlemen, great to have all of you. I want to start with your great mate David Warner, Aaron Finch, because he has finished his IPL campaign not the way that he wanted to, especially heading into his last tournament for Australia. He had one opening alongside Jake Fraser-McGurk and then didn't play in the last game altogether. It wasn't the IPL season that he was looking for. Is it potentially his last IPL season?
It's potentially his last, but he would be the first to admit that he had a really poor campaign. He got a little bit unlucky with an injury midway through, and it looked like he was just starting to find some form and find some flow into his batting. But I mean, with a big auction coming up next time or later in the year, I suspect that there'd be a team out there that would love to have his experience there, whether it's in their plans for the first 11 or whether it's just as a replacement and somebody to help nurture the younger players in the group. So I wouldn't say it's his last IPL game, but yeah, he had a poor year.
Pup, what do you think?
I think he'll get picked up at the auction. He just mightn't get the money that he's used to. I think that's probably going to be the difference. He's at that stage of his career as well. When you're not performing at your absolute best, you probably can't expect the same money. So I'm sure he'll put himself back in the auction, and I'd be very surprised if he's not picked up. Again, the problem with the IPL, you can only play 4 overseas players, so it might mean he is spending more time on the bench. But I'd be surprised if someone doesn't buy him.
Paine, it's a fascinating one because he's been a little bit on the decline in the IPL over the last few years. Different stories, strike rate being an issue at different various times. But overall, his IPL career has been quite remarkable. 3rd overall for the run scorers in the competition's history. How will he be remembered, do you think?
Oh, there's no doubt he'll go down as one of the great IPL players of all time. His record is second to none. It's right up there with Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, some of the greats of the game. So, look, I think it's likely that he may have played his last IPL game, but he has got a big 12 months coming up. He's got a World Cup. He's got Big Bash cricket, hopefully, at some stage in Australia, maybe that international T20 tournament to prove that he's still got it. And I'm sure if he shows a glimpse of the David Warner we know, as Pup and Finchy both said, I think there'll be a team out there that is willing to take the punt on someone of his quality and with his record.
From taking a punt to punter, your former skipper, Michael Clarke, is he going to survive as Delhi's coach? They started the season 1-4. They then won 6 of their next 9. It's unlikely, very unlikely that they're making that playoff spot given their net run rate. Will he be there next year as coach, do you think?
I don't know the answer to that. Look, Punter's been there for a long time. I was surprised to find out that I think this is his 7th year with Delhi. So, look, like any sport at the highest level, you get judged on results. So I think, being the major auction that's just around the corner, I think Delhi will talk about it. They'll be talking about not only their players, but they'll obviously have to talk about their leadership, captain, coach. I think he's got a really good relationship with everyone there at Delhi, so that might help him. But, yeah, I don't know. You can only coach your stock as well. And, look, I thought Delhi's team this year wasn't as good as what they've had in previous years, so I don't think they'll just judge Punter on this season. I don't know. It's okay to drop someone or replace someone, but you got to bring someone new in. And is there someone better than Ricky Ponting as a head coach? That's probably the main question Delhi have to ask. So I don't know, Ness. But it'll certainly be a conversation. There's no doubt about that. That's just sport. But I don't know if Punter will still be there next year.
The unusual situation that Delhi have is that they've got 2 groups of owners. They've got the GMR group and another group that has come in after about 10 years, I think. So, but they split the ownership of it. So for 2 years, one group of them will run the team, and then 2 years later, the other half of the organisation will run it. So it's a really unusual group, and depending on who's in power at the time of the big auction generally determines how the big auction goes as well. So I think that Delhi, as a group, they have to take some accountability for some poor auction strategy right throughout the last 3 or 4 years as well. And they just haven't seemed to have had that same depth of talent that they had when they had the youngsters coming from all angles, and they ended up losing them to other franchises. They let them go because someone wanted leadership and other guys wanted leadership, so they had to make way. So it's a really, really interesting dynamic at the Delhi Capitals.
And Paine, you want to defend your fellow Tasmanian.
No, well, if I was Delhi, I'd be keeping him. I think Pup made some good points. If you look at internally, what were their expectations? I looked at that list that they had this year and thought, if they were making the 4, they've done really, really well. Finchy makes another point around their auction strategy. Hasn't been great. Who's in charge of that? You never know. In India, it's a bit up and down. But I think what's happened to Delhi in the last 3 or 4 years was Gujarat and Lucknow came in, and they were probably one of the teams that got really decimated by that. They were going really well at that stage. Since then, their results have certainly dropped. Finchy touched on a bit of the leadership internal battle they had with Shreyas Iyer and Rishabh. They ended up sticking with Rishabh, who then has a career-threatening injury, misses a season. Shreyas goes on, and we know how good a player he is. So they've certainly struggled. But if I was looking from a Delhi point of view, what I saw at the end of this year from Rishabh back playing, Tristan Stubbs from South Africa is an exciting young talent, Fraser McGurk, Kuldeep, Perel, who opened the batting and did really well. I think they've got the nucleus of a really good, core, young group of players. If they can go to this super auction and nail it, I would be sticking with Ricky, because if you look at, as I've said before, over T20 teams across all competitions around the world, consistency is the key. You look at Mumbai, you look at Chennai Super Kings, consistency, know your auctions, keep those players for a long period of time. And that core group of young players, they're as good to anyone to watch in the world. And I know I certainly tune in, love watching Delhi, because Jake Fraser McGurk's there, Tristan Stubbs there, and Rishabh Pant. So I think they've got the talent if they can match it up with some good picks in the next auction.
From an entertaining, exciting youngsters to an entertaining, exciting veteran, England, Maxwell hasn't been his IPL. It looks like he'll get another opportunity because Will Jacks and Reece Topley, 2 overseas players, have gone back to the UK to play for England. So if he doesn't get an opportunity here, we're not sure when he will, as they fight for their season. If you were his captain heading into this World Cup, knowing the form that he's been in this IPL, what would you be saying? Imagine that I'm Glenn Maxwell, the camera is Glenn Maxwell. What would you be saying, Finchy?
Well, you give him very minimal direction, because you know when he's at his absolute best, he's explosive and he wins your games. But you just reiterate the importance that he has on the team, and you understand how difficult his job is within that team. You're asking a guy to be explosive from ball one. So with that comes high risk, high reward, but it also breeds inconsistency as well. So you have to be prepared to wear that in a team, and you almost structure up your team around players like that so that their performances don't dictate how your team goes. But if they come off, you win. That's just a Monty. You win every single time that they play to their absolute potential. So it's just basically around that. Just make sure that he understands his importance in the team. He's got a lot of love in that Australian cricket team. He's got so much experience in all conditions around the world against a lot of different opposition. So it's all there. He will have a huge World Cup, I've got no doubt.
Essentially pump him up. Pup, is there any question over his spot in this World Cup side?
No, not at all. I think the selectors have made that very obvious in the squad they've picked for the World Cup. I don't think the Australian selectors have looked at the IPL at all. And if they have, they've obviously missed something, because Jake Fraser McGurk has been there and smoking them. So I think that's a very fair indication that the Australian selectors have kept faith in their senior players, in guys that have done it at the highest level before. And Max is obviously one of them. So, no, I think now he's in the 15, his role will not change. Australia will pick him in the first game. And, I think he's that type of player. As long as he's confident and clear-minded, they're the 2 things that I believe you get the best out of someone like Maxi. If he can be those 2 things, he could still be the leading run scorer in the World Cup. It's that type of format. He's that type of player.
His RCB teammate Virat Kohli is having an extraordinary IPL and trying to keep their season alive at the moment. They'll play CSK on the weekend, and we'll have Mike Hussey coming up shortly to hear from CSK's perspective. But his strike rate, Virat Kohli, is better than it's ever been in an IPL, and he's got comparable sort of numbers to that season where he was absolutely astonishing in 2016, where he scored 973 runs. But Paine, his role in this RCB team, and then looking ahead to India at the World Cup, when he's posting those sort of numbers, do you actually consider him maybe opening for India?
Yeah, I certainly would. I think Virat Kohli's probably earned the right to bat wherever he likes, doesn't he? Particularly when he's in this kind of form. I can't see India winning the World Cup unless Virat Kohli has a really strong World Cup. Bit similar to Australia with Glenn Maxwell's form. I know he hasn't been red hot of late, but I can't see Australia winning the World Cup unless Glenn Maxwell has a blinder or very close to. So, yeah, Virat's an experienced player. I'm sure they'd be having conversations, but whether he bats 1, 2 or 3, I don't think will worry him too much. Having said that, I think if I was a selector or a coach or a leader in that team, I want my best player, the best player in the world, in red-hot form. I want him facing as many balls as possible, so I'd throw him straight into the top.
As I said, that strike rate is better than ever. The aggressive approach, he's brought back the slog sweep and he's spoken about that. And that favourite saying that I love, if Virat Kohli plays well, 1 billion Indians sleep well. The fact that he's risen again under all this pressure, it is remarkable.
Yeah, it is, because there was so much talk around the start of the tournament, the start of the IPL around will he be in the World Cup squad. So to be able to put that to a side and just go out there, do his job, and like you said, striking at 155 is the highest that he's struck in throughout his career. So it's a great point. He's just a brilliant player. I love watching him play. The way that he dissects a run chase in particular is extraordinary. I'd still keep him at 3 personally. I just think the stability of him at 3 just creates an environment for everybody else around to play their natural game. And you've got Jaiswal at the top who can hit the ball out of the park. He can get them off to an absolute fly. I'm just not sure whether Virat and Rohit together at the top would create that dynamic approach that you need, I think, in the West Indies in particular. I think forget the US side of it. They'll qualify for the finals, so they'll be fine. But you've just got to think about the West Indies conditions, in my opinion, and that'll be power play being really important, going ultra hard, getting in front of the game. And I think with Jaiswal and Rohit, they give that opportunity.
Well, don't go anywhere, because after this short break, we're going to take a look at another great of the game. Jimmy Anderson is bidding farewell to the game he loves. And we're going to talk about these 3 former captains after the break. Jimmy Anderson has played his last Ashes test. Weeks before his 42nd birthday, he will play his final test at Lord's, the same venue he made his debut at 21 years ago. He'll finish on 188 test matches, second only to the legendary Sachin Tendulkar, and he is the only fast bowler to reach the 700 wicket mark, the 3rd bowler in the history of the game. Congratulations to Jimmy Anderson. We don't have to come up against him in the Ashes anymore. Pup, given you played so much against him, and we just saw a couple of snaps that may have involved a particular incident with you. Can you share a story about Jimmy Anderson? Maybe one in particular, please.
Well, his record, I guess over a long period of time, statistics don't lie. That record is phenomenal. So, yeah, nothing but praise for Jimmy on an amazing career. Loved playing against him. Obviously, we're both ultra competitive. I think I played my first game against Jimmy in league cricket over in England, in Lancashire League when I was 17. So started very young. But yeah, look, what a career. To be able to play 100 test matches, just physically and mentally, is an unbelievable achievement. But as a fast bowler, to play 180 odd, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you... I can't sledge him. I can only praise him, Nez. I'm sorry.
Does it give you a smile that story keeps getting brought up this week, though, as we're talking about Jimmy Anderson? We all enjoy it.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Like I say, on the field, you do and say things, and sometimes they're heard, sometimes they're not. On that occasion, it was heard loud and clear what my thoughts were over the stump mic, but. Yeah, there was no second guessing, put it that way. He knew what was coming.
No broken arms in this studio, Finchy. The way that the ECB have handled it, Brendan McCullum, the coach, flying over to have a conversation with him, Rob Key also involved in that, and they came to that mutual decision that perhaps the Ashes 25-26 was a bridge too far. Do you appreciate the way it was handled?
Absolutely. I think that's the perfect way that you handle a legend of the game and somebody who's giving so much to the England cricket team and English cricket over a long period of time. You meet with them and you say, look, we don't see this going any further than this summer. And I think they've done it really respectfully, that they've allowed him to go out when he wanted, almost at Lords. And I think that just shows a real care for the player and for the history of the game as well. That I think Australia will be in a similar situation in a couple of years, or over the next couple of years, with a lot of guys around similar ages in all formats of the game probably starting to drop off international cricket at the same time. So I think history would suggest that Cricket Australia don't always get that right, whether it's players or coaches at different times. So it'd be nice if it's done similarly.
Paine, looking ahead to those 25-26 Ashes, who is going to be England's attack? Because no Broad, no Anderson.
No England, by the sounds of it. I think there'll be some batters. One that'll be sleeping really well, knowing that they won't have to deal with Broad or Anderson. But looking ahead, if Jofra Archer's not fit, Ben Stokes isn't bowling, I think there'll be some pretty happy batters in the Australian camp starting to lip their lips. Looking ahead to that series, I think you've got Ollie Robinson, who if fit and bowling well can be a real handful. Maybe Chris Wokes will still be going around. Apart from that, I think they'll be relatively unknown. And as Stuart Broad touched on himself yesterday, really inexperienced. So could be a huge positive for the Aussies. And totally agree with what Finchy said there. I think the way that England have handled the exit of Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad is how you want to remember all of your legends. And perhaps in Australia in the last sort of, since the Warne, Langer, Hayden sort of retirement, we probably haven't got them all right. So we could take a leaf out of their book. The way they've handled that has been superb. And you've been left with two greats retiring, and as fans or opposition, you're still wanting more. And I think that's a real key if you're going to retire.
18 months ahead of the Ashes, and Tim Paine is already chirping up behind the stumps. We love to hear it.
It's easy when you don't have to play, that's for sure.
Michael Clarke, thank you very much for your time. Paine will be back shortly for the short stuff, but after this short break, we're going to be joined by the great Mike Hussey, Mr. Cricket, coming up. Welcome back to Around the Wicket. I'm Neroli Meadows, Aaron Finch still with me, and Michael Hussey is joining us for the very first time, making his Around the Wicket debut from India, part of the Chennai coaching staff. Huss, great to have you on board. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. This weekend, huge game. You finished the league stage, CSK up against RCB, both fighting for a playoff spot. You're in the box seat with that positive net run rate. How is the planning going ahead of this one? What's the approach?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. We've got a great rivalry with RCB, and I don't know. The IPL, it always seems to come down to the last game. A lot of different permutations, but I guess from our side of things, we're just going to try and come in with that great positive attitude, try and win the game. That's probably got to be our sort of thing. I know we can afford to have a small loss and still potentially go through, but I don't really want to be going down that scenario. So we're just going to come out and try and play a great game, try and win the game. I mean, it's going to be a tough match as well. RCB have been playing some great cricket. Like, they were really struggling earlier in the tournament. I think they've won 5 in a row now. So they're obviously playing with a lot of confidence, and their home turf. It's going to be a huge challenge for us, but and I know one we're really looking forward to, that's for sure.
And Huss, can you just talk to us about the transition of captaincy from MS Dhoni to Ruturaj Gaikwad? It's the second time that Chennai have attempted this handover, I guess, one unsuccessful one with Ravi Jadeja a few years ago. So just give us an insight into what that's been like at CSK.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of came just before the season started, really. MS sort of announced that he wasn't going to be attending the pre-tournament captains sort of meeting, and we were like, oh no, what's going on? And he said, no, Ruturaj is going to be captain from now on. So it was a little bit of a shock to start with, but it's been managed really well. I know Stephen Fleming's worked really closely with Ruturaj. in the lead up to the sort of start of the tournament. In fact, he's been grooming him for a couple of years now. We've sort of known for a little while that he's been the right man to take over the job when MS decided to sort of step aside. MS really wanted to still be here while the new captain took over to try and help him along the way and sort of mentor him a little bit. So that's worked really well as well. And obviously Stephen Fleming's a great role model for him as well. So it's been quite seamless, actually. He's a really great guy, Rutaraj, very calm. He's a good thinker about the game. He's got a very good cricket brain. It was always going to be a massive challenge for him personally. How do you follow someone like MS Dhoni is got to be really tough. But he's done a great job. I think he's been really calm and measured on the field. And I think he'll just get better and better. The more he does it, and the more support we keep around him, then and I guess from my point of view, the pleasing thing is that it's not affected his batting at all either. He's really performed extremely well with the bat as well. So it's been really good so far. It's going to be another great challenge on Saturday, that's for sure.
And what about MS Dhoni? He's about to be 43 years of age, striking at 227 this season. Surely, give us a scoop here, Huss. He plays on next year.
Well, your guess is as good as mine at this stage. He keeps his cards very, very close to his chest. We're hoping he does keep going. I guess, he's still batting so well. He does prepare well. He gets into camp very early and he hits a lot of balls. So he's been in good touch all season, really. I guess we've just got to try and manage him from the body side of things. He had a knee surgery after last season, so he's sort of been managing that in the initial stages of the tournament. Other little ailments along the way, which is probably pretty normal for a 42, 43-year-old. So that's why I know fans will probably want to see him batting a little bit higher in the order, but that's probably why we've have to manage him a little bit, and he sort of only comes in sort of right at the back end. But there's no better in being able to come in and hit the ball so cleanly from ball one than MS, even considering his age. He's been phenomenal, and from a personal point of view, I hope he keeps going for another couple of years yet. But we'll just have to wait and see. He's the only one that will make that call, and he likes to sort of build the drama a little bit as well. So I wouldn't expect a decision anytime soon.
And Huss, let's just look ahead a little bit further to the T20 World Cup. What do you make of Australia's squad, and what do you think of their chances at this T20 World Cup?
Yeah, I really like the look of the squad. It's got pretty much all bases covered. A lot of experience as well, which I think will definitely hold them in good stead at the World Cup. I think the conditions are going to be the challenging thing. Can we adapt to those West Indian conditions as quickly as we possibly can? Traditionally, the wickets have been a little bit slow and taken a lot of spin in the last couple of years. So that's going to be the challenge for a team coming from Australia, where we're used to more pace and bounce. But in the past, we've got a good record of doing that. Great record in World Cups as well. I really like the look of the squad, and I give us a big chance. I really do. I think we've got a lot of weapons, and if we can just get the guys in form and playing well, obviously at the business end of the tournament, then I think the whole world are always worried about an Australian team playing well.
Yeah, they certainly are. And BBL, there's a couple of coaching jobs up for grabs at the moment. Will you be throwing your hat into the ring for any of those?
I haven't actually thought about it whatsoever. I'm still in negotiations with Fox, trying to get back onto the commentary team. So I haven't thought about it too much at this stage, and just been focusing on CSK at the moment. So no, I haven't given it any thought whatsoever. It's all a bit new, really. So I don't know. I haven't got anything for you there in that stage, no.
Nez, I'm not sure about you, but I'm not convinced by that answer one bit. That was a guy who has put a little bit of thought into it.
Cheshire Cat,
exactly
I reckon,
right.
With that smile. Before we let you go, Huss, one of the greats of the game, Jimmy Anderson, is calling it quits. Just wanted to ask you about one memory from you. Obviously, plenty of Ashes battles, and just quietly, I reckon you had his number, averaging more than 70 against him. He only got you 3 times, but one in particular where he thought it was your brother, I think, that got the baggy grain?
What a career. Like, seriously, I just got to admire the guy so much. Admire his longevity. I think especially for a fast bowler to be able to play for that long and keep his body in such great shape, and his standards so high. I mean, he's still been performing extremely well, sort of into his 40s as well. So I've got the utmost respect for him. I mean, I think what I also admire about him is he struggled a bit the first couple of times he came to Australia. He didn't enjoy bowling in Australian pitches as much as maybe, certainly in the UK. And so his record wasn't that good to start with. But like all great players, they evolved their game. And the more times he came back to Australia, I feel like the better he got. And he started bowl some great Ashes in some great Ashes series towards the back end of his career. So really admire him. Yeah, we had some great battles along the way. I remember facing him for quite a long time at the Gabba, and for the whole session he called me Dave. And I don't like sort of interact with the opposition too much out there in the middle, but eventually it just got to me by the end. I said, mate, I'm not Dave, I'm Mike. And he's like, you finally said something back to me. I've been waiting all session for you to say something. He didn't mind a good chat on the field. He was probably a bit smarter than a lot of the other fast bowling chats I've sort of encountered along the way as well. So, he's been a great player for a long time, and I obviously wish him all the best in retirement.
Well, Dave, all the best this weekend up against CB. Thanks for joining us on Around the Wicket. Don't go anywhere. Paine's next to take on the short stuff. Time to take on the short stuff. Paine's back. Finchy alongside me. Applications are open for the India coaching gig. Rahul Dravid told he needs to reapply if he wants it again. He looks like he's opted out. Paine, what do you make of it all?
Yeah, probably the right call to opt out. I'm not sure. I've heard too many people who've had to reapply for their job have actually got it. So I think Rahul's seen the writing on the wall and he's opted out. Probably the right call.
Justin Langer has also said he'd be curious about an extraordinary role. What do you think about that?
Well, it'd be an extraordinary role. I think coaching the Indian cricket team, there wouldn't be many more high-profile or challenging jobs in world cricket.
Johan Botha has been given the Queensland and Brisbane Heat job. Are you happy about that, Paine?
Yeah, I think he's a good appointment. I had a little bit of work with him in Tasmania a few years ago. Really knowledgeable, great cricket brain. He's been around the world now and coached in Dubai. He's coached in Pakistan, so he's done an excellent apprenticeship. Disciplinarian, but a kind of new style, relaxed one. So I think Queensland will rise under him and the Heat will continue on their merry way from last year.
Paine's just happy that he's not up against him for the strikers gig. Finchy, you made the prediction that Ireland were going to beat Pakistan. Can lightning strike twice? Because they did it.
Yep, I'm the Oracle.
See you next week. This is Around the Wicket.